We'll start our fireside chat shortly. It's just watching a number of people join, so we'll kick off in the next 20 seconds or so. Well, welcome everyone that has joined us today for our fireside chat. And if you'll be watching this recording later, we look forward to your feedback. The fireside chat today is looking at maximising the life cycle of your school assets. And in many ways, we're also going to look at the value of those assets, how they can be managed and protected. Joining me today from Beaconhills College in Victoria is Jesie Montgomery, who's the Assistant Property Manager, been at the school 5.5 years, and Matt Davis, the Property Manager, who's spent more than 10 years at the college. Today, we're going to look a little further into a case study that Beaconhills College very generously have provided us in recent times, and we're going to provide a link for you to connect to that at the end of the session. If anyone has any questions, you'll notice down the bottom of the screen there is a Q&A button. Please feel free to type a question into that. If time allows, we will answer it, or we'll get back to you very shortly after the fireside chat today. So Jesie and Matt, welcome. How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Very well, thank you.
That's great. And again, thank you very much for your time that you're putting in today to spend here. Jesie, we're going to ask you some of the first questions. You were a big contributor into that case study. So based on what you've put into the case study, how's AssetWhere and myBuildings, the facilities management side, how's that assisting you to be more efficient in your day-to-day operations?
So there are a number of ways, and this has actually been a good way for us to be able to identify how much we actually are using AssetWhere and myBuildings. Mainly is locating rooms. So it's a quick and efficient way for us to do it. We do have two campuses. They're located about 20-25 minutes apart from each other. So, for example, today we're at the Pakenham campus, and if there is a situation in which we have to look at the layout of a room at the Berwick campus, or even outside of the shed here on the Pakenham campus, we can just jump onto AssetWhere and get the details and the information that we need straight away. The other big user is we do have it's our truth for our contractors. At the moment, we've got about 55 of our contractors on the in myBuildings, and that's just the property contractors. We are looking at making it college-wide. That's probably next on our list to spread that contact card to be used outside, but it's actually a really good way for us to be able to keep everything in one spot. So all of our insurances, all of the details of the contractor on there as well. So that's it's a really big bonus and efficiency for us.
Right. And you mentioned that you're remote to the other campus in Berwick. You have an example of recent times where that having access to that data without going there has been very useful in terms of, again, being efficient in your operations?
So we had at Berwick recently, we've had a building finish up, and we needed to get all of the evacuation signs completed. And so we were able to send all of the maps out of AssetWhere to our contractor in New South Wales, and they were able to complete the maps for us. And I think Matt...
Another example we had was our middle school 1 and 2 buildings at the Berwick campus. I actually had all the maps and measurements and square meterage. I was able to send that straight through to the contractor without actually meeting him on site, just to get that initial quote. So it saved, well, not only leg time, it probably saved me 2-3 hours worth of work, and it was very efficient.
Great, thanks Matt, thanks Jesie. And just to maybe, if we sort of have a more holistic view of time saving and efficiencies, if you look at a month or period of time, what are the savings in time or effort, or I like the term legwork, what do those times look like as a metric for you in your operations as you go through a week or a month?
So for us, I guess this is sort of doubling into how it also assists within our team as well. So when we were doing our big review, it's probably saved, I know it saved Matt, I think we worked it out sort of on average about 7 hours a week, rather than having to go into each individual job or having paper copies and things like that. He was able to jump on there. For me, it's much easier and quicker efficiency with finding out so much information. I'm saving probably about 5 to 6 hours a week at a minimum.
Right.
And I think the most time we've actually found saving is from our team members. Yep. When previously they've had to jump on a computer or have a printout, whereas now they've actually got myBuildings on their phone, so they can just get the jobs done quicker. So for them, we're saving easily, could be up to 10 hours a week, just on being able to be a bit more efficient on that side of it.
And Jesie and Matt, just what is another key thing you do other than use AssetWhere? Because I think you're saying that you have to put time into the system, but it's giving you back time. What are the other jobs that you do in your role, Jesie?
So for me, I look after the contracts for our the big contracts. So we're looking at the cleaning contracts, the painting contracts and things like that. I'm able to have them, I focus on them. I also do a lot of business cases within the college as well. I get on the ground as well when we're short staffed, and I think that's probably been a real big help, that during those ebbs and flows, when people are sick, that I've actually been able to go out rather than having to just be behind the desk at all times. I do the purchasing as well. Matt will do the background, and then I follow up with the purchasing side of it.
Probably the big key factor for me in the time that I've got is I project manage a lot of the new buildings that we have, as far as design, the construction meetings. So it's actually given me a lot more time to focus on those new buildings. I also help design a lot of the furniture, classroom spaces and outdoor learning. So it's given me a lot more focus to do that sort of projects. Excellent.
And that's a good lead in, Matt. I just wanted to sort of look at when new things or new buildings or changes happen on the site. In the case study, Jesie refers to our data management service as her little helper. So maybe, Jesie, can you just explain in the context of how does that ensure that your system is still valuable and your assets are accurate? Like, what's that process for you look like as your little helper?
Oh, it's a lot more streamlined, rather than me having it up here. And if I was to get sick or to be away, I've now got a helper that actually we can keep those capital projects online, those carpet replacement, that painting replacement. So before it was just what was in here, what I had written down in a diary. So the help that it's been to coordinate what comes next, it's not only just for me, it's also for capital budgets, for which we're doing at the moment. So all our capital budgets, that's a big help for that.
Okay. And I think from my end, what I find the most streamlined is that when we're needing changes to be made, or when Matt's like, we need to update this, I only have to get finance approval once, and we get that sorted out, and then I can just send emails off, left, right, and centre. And I also find that it's really good that we've been able to build a really good rapport with the team that look after us. So they actually know our sites, they know how we work, they know our preferences. And the limitations that we currently have and where we can expand on that.
Great. And I see behind you, you've got a couple of examples of our community maps, very well strategically placed. So when you're using the DMS, it's not just updating the floor plans or where the services are. You've also, I understand, used it to keep those community maps updated. How are those community maps sort of another way where you're getting value out of that single investment in updating a floor plan or a site plan? How do you use those community maps?
Well, for us, we're able to use it as a quick access for us while Matt and I are sitting. So we're just to give everyone a bit of an idea, we're currently sitting at my desk. Matt is opposite me. We do a lot of collaborative chat, and or when we have a contractor come in, we can just point on the map that's on the wall. For us, we have it at each campus. We also are able to use it on our intranet, and also every new staff member gets a copy of both campuses, so that they can use to locate different parts of the school. And if you get lost, you can always find the room number on the community map, and then be able to work out where you need to go from there.
One of the big assets that we had was during the COVID situation, where we had to change a lot of the car parking, we had to drop off lanes, things like that. Having that map and being able to draw on it and then get it updated for those was just invaluable. We were able to show parents, that was able to go out in the bulletins, and it wasn't something that looked makeup. It looked presentable, and we got real good results out of it. So yeah.
Right. And so if we take, we're talking about your experiences in using AssetWhere and myBuildings and in what you colloquially called the shed. If we look at the use of AssetWhere across the wider school community, you got some examples where you can speak to how other people are getting value out of AssetWhere without you directly being, a map shop for them.
I'll say one. So generally, about the middle of the year, I get asked about changes to offices, to classrooms. Now what we have is we have the executive principal and the principals that actually have those maps, and they can actually make the changes, draw on them, then get them back to myself and Jesie, and then we can make those changes for real, get contractors out to quote. So for that, it's been great that I haven't had to have meeting after meeting about it. We're actually using the AssetWhere to do our work for us, which is great. Right.
And how easy was it for staff to take up use of the system?
Both systems. So I guess for us, myBuildings has now been live for almost 12 months. And being the facilities management system that we have at the college, we actually did the changeover, and we didn't tell the staff how to use it. We simply just sent a link out and said any maintenance requests, you click Berwick or Pakenham, and then you go from there. And so zero training, and we've had no negative feedback on it, which we were quite surprised about. Yeah. Normally, whenever there's a big change, there's a lot of information that needs to be provided, and a lot of step-by-step how-tos, but we've not had any of that.
No, and we that's how we try and run a few things that we do. It's easier the less information that we give them, they actually try and find it themselves, and they did. And yeah, as Jesie said, we had no complaints.
Right. Great. And you've talked a bit about, I think you mentioned at the beginning, you manage 55 contractors, you're looking to expand that out. If we look at the use of the contractors in the system, how are they accessing AssetWhere and myBuildings at Beaconhills College? How's that working for them and the value they get in protecting your assets, essentially?
Yeah, well, so like our contractors, when we are able to send, I think one of the most efficient things we found is that when we get the job in from the staff members, we can just assign it to the contractor, and then they get all of the information. Our electrician is able to, once he gets the job, upon completion, he's able to upload all of the certificates for the job. So we not only do we have the certificates for that job, but then we can assign them to the building or to an asset. And it's a much more cleaner process for us, and it brings it back to that myBuildings and AssetWhere being our truth for the college.
I think one of the big things that we found too is if we do have a contractor that's public liability runs out, things like that, we can't actually send them a job until that's all updated. So yeah, for us to cross, for those sort of things, it's been really great.
And it's really efficient for them too to be able to upload their documents. Our previous system had me contacting each individual contractor saying this, like I would get an email notification. I'd be like, this is expired. Can you send it to me? Then I would have to download it, then upload it And it was a much longer process. And we did find that, you know, every now and then there might have been a lapse in someone's insurance and things like that. And we'd have to stop them when they were on site and say, well, hold on, guys. Whereas this actually stops us from sending the jobs to them. So there's already that check in place for us.
And as I understand it, at school, that's part of your risk management, part of your duty of care. And you don't really want someone on site, even if they're qualified, if their insurance is not current and an unfortunate accident occurs, again, you're having damage to those assets, no matter how well you've tried to look after them, but important that they are fully qualified as much as you're offering them a safe work environment.
Definitely.
And just other people that have access to AssetWhere, like who else has access other than the two of you?
There's us, we've got the executive principal, the campus principals, our compliance manager also has access, along with our OH&S manager has access to them.
And enrolments.
And
also our daily organisers for timetable.
And sorry, Matt, the daily organisers example, how does that work? Like, how are they using AssetWhere?
So big example, we had a sewerage malfunction at the Pakenham campus. I was able to ring the daily organiser to say I need to shut down 6 classrooms. She automatically then was able to go into AssetWhere, find the classrooms that she could repurpose for the kids. So she was able to do that, then send it out into the bulletin with the room numbers and a little diagram showing where the rooms are. So that happened within about 15 minutes, and we relocated nearly 100 students from one building to another building.
So important there that there's no disruption to the student experience or anything like that. They still got the class they expected, just not in the normal location. Okay, great.
And them having access meant that we were able to focus on everything else, getting contractors out, closing the building down, doing all the physical side of it, whereas the software side of it was able to be managed, and we didn't have to have anything to do with that.
Okay. And so I'm just going to keep, we've sort of lifted up from what happens in the shed, and then we've got other people in the school using it. Have you had projects where, you've needed to collaborate with external groups, and how have you been able to share and collaborate with them based on the information that you have in AssetWhere and myBuildings?
Well, there's probably a couple of good things. So most recently, unfortunately, we had a break-in at the school, and I was able to provide the police with the data from AssetWhere with a map of the path that the offender actually went, with how tracking them with our cameras, and that additional information was able to be used as a part of their process. And within, I think it was about an hour and a half of sending all of the information to them, they'd already been able to identify the offender and had started their proceedings of what was the next step for them. So they were able to get a really good idea of the full movement of what had happened, and able to put their own timestamps on them there. The other one Matt can probably talk about a bit more, which is the road that we put through the Pakenham campus. And how we were able to use the AssetWhere plans to collaborate with Southeast. And
so we were able to collaborate with Southeast, Telstra, for where all our pipes and existing electrical, our ABN, so we're able to give them up-to-date data that showed where everything was. We actually had to cross through basically the main optic fibre that was in the road. And
even crossed over the road.
We crossed over the road.
Had to deal with the council as well on that side of it.
So with that, it was able to get done. We didn't hit any of the pipes, so they were able to locate because we had up-to-date maps. So that was probably one of the best cost-saving things we had, because it could have cost us quite a lot of money.
And could have seen the school disrupted significantly if there was any of those services. You talk about basically water, water supply and sewer. And then you've got Telstra, which is be pretty critical for all your online learning and other things.
And that runs the Berry campus as well. So
our server is based here at Pakenham. I think there was one incident that the water pipe had been damaged, but again, we were able to use the services compartment of AssetWhere. I'm not sure how you would refer to it, but But the ability to be able to identify services on AssetWhere showed where all of the closest valves were. So that was had created no damage because we were able to get on top of that one straight away.
Great. And when we look at just that general development of either of your campuses or your master plans, you mentioned that you have a 10-year plan. Where does AssetWhere sit in that? And is there something soon to happen that where you really got AssetWhere at the heart of it?
Yes, at our Pakenham campus, the campus itself is 40 years old. So a lot of our infrastructure for electrical, our optic fibre is 40 years old. So at the moment, it sort of hops around and goes from one building to another. So with our AssetWhere, we've been able to develop a plan where our new buildings will go, and also to be able to construct where the infrastructure for all those major services it'll go. So we've been able to develop that. We've been able to give it a 5-year plan. So cost-wise, we're able to work on it. So it's going to be a major overhaul for the system, but we're lucky we have the plans to go with it to make it a lot easier.
So rather than individual trenches per service, you'll end up with a larger trench and common place for all your services.
A bomb shelter is what we're calling it.
We'll also have a bomb shelter, which will house our server. So everything will run to that. So which that in turn that runs both our campuses. So yeah. Right,
and that's just your general IT file server. Because I think one of the things you talked about, because we've got AssetWhere and myBuildings.
Supply of the school, because with the upgrade, it means that even if there is a power outage, that's not going to cause any extra issues for us, which is pretty lucky considering it does happen at certain times. I mean, right now we've got a temporary solution, but this is definitely going to be a long-term investment. I mean, the project is an investment, and I mean, AssetWhere is too, really, and the facilities management side of it as well.
So again, it's how you're actually going to construct something. You've got this, common service or services in a common trench. You've got almost the ultimate uninterruptible power supply just for running the school. Yes, it's an investment, but again, important that in 5 years' time there'll be another part of the master plan that will need to be aware of.
Definitely, yeah.
Maybe just finally, as a final question, if you had nothing in place, what do you think are the risks and challenges that you would face? So, you're going back 10 years or more when you really didn't have a system, but if you come to 2023 and you both walked into the shed today, what are those risks and challenges that you think you would face without points of truth and a single sort of corporate database around assets and facilities?
I don't want to think about that. No.
Fair enough.
No,
yeah.
It's such a, for us, if we came in and we didn't have it, there would be huge risks over our heads. I don't remember a time before AssetWhere, but I know a time before the facilities management system that we've got in place. It was definitely a lot clunkier, and there was risks of missing maintenance requests. We had hard copies of insurances and trying to keep them filed and up to date. And I think being able to keep track of not just the scheduled maintenance, which is a very important thing, but also those ad hoc maintenance requests that come through, trying to make sure I get with a scheduled maintenance request, trying to keep on top of them, and almost having to rely on our contractors to let us know, whereas now we're able to manage that ourselves.
I think the biggest thing in my role, and Jess's role, but probably comes on my head, is compliance. And if we don't have compliance, then we're actually putting our students and our staff at risk. So being able to have a one-stop shop, if you like, with where all our compliance and everything is. At any time we get audited, we have those things there for all our electrical, exit lighting, emergency lighting, all of that. So I think compliance over the last 5 years is probably, that's the one thing that there's, I think we're getting great benefit out of this system.
And I think the other thing too, I just thought about, if we didn't have the maps online that we have, we would have, PDFs around everywhere, or even when Matt first started, a whole heap of plans, like your big A1 plans, just in boxes and boxes and boxes, and hoping that you can find the right one within the first couple of boxes, otherwise you'd be there for who knows how long trying to find the exact one you're after.
Sure. So I suppose what I hear is that there's a lot of it's a lot of pieces of information that you now can easily look at yourselves for your own purposes. But if you're audited as you are regularly, you've got that information to support that. Just one last question to you, Matt, before we take a couple of questions from those listening. What's the experience of the auditor or the compliance person when they come and you present them this beautiful plate of information? Are they surprised, or what's their experience like?
Yeah, it's surprised. Well, actually, they don't come and see you now. You send it all to them.
Oh, okay.
So that makes it a bit easier. But no, when we've had two, I've had WorkSafe on site for certain things, and with our compliance, it's great to know that it's there, that I can just at the flick of a switch, I can get it all up. I'm not having to go through files or filing cabinets and all that sort of thing to find it.
And just recently, sorry to interrupt, Matt, just recently we had our Mill Street. So we actually have a boarding house as well.
Okay.
Sorry, we should have mentioned that earlier, but we also have a boarding house that shares a boundary line with our Pakenham campus, and they just got audited like last week. And a part of the request was to show that we had scheduled maintenance in place, and it wasn't like an ad hoc thing. So we were able to extract the data out of the facilities management side of it and send that straight to them, and it had everything. It had the location, the dates, the frequency, all of that was in a really clean spreadsheet that they could just pass on to the auditors, and we've had no questions back.
Right. Well, it's ironic. That's one of the questions we've had from those listening about the asset management containing maintenance scheduling. So maybe, and it certainly can do that, and assigning capabilities to that. If you've got a specific example, so you've got the maintenance, is it you would have had fire, you would have had security, doors, all those things that are under legislation or statutory regulation. They're more those compliance side. Do you have any sort of best practice things that you do as well, using that as a scheduled maintenance activity?
I would say, well, we manage all of the vehicles as well.
Right, okay.
So that's a really, really important one for us. Like there is huge legislation around school buses and how often they have to be serviced.
Okay.
So, and that again, we have the scheduled maintenance that's then linked with the asset. And Matt's favourite party trick is that he likes to go up to, all of our air conditioners have them, is being able to go to the asset. We've got stickers, for example, on all of our air conditioners, and you can get your QR code on your phone and you can see all of the previous history and all of the data on the asset. Yeah,
and all that's just another part of the question that was asked, was that's all part of what myBuildings and the facilities management software is. So it's all, there. You've got your work requests for your ad hoc fixes, broken window, but equally you've got the capability to have that scheduled maintenance as part of that.
And that they talk, I like that they talk as well between AssetWhere and the facilities management. They talk, like, for example, when we were building our big performing arts theatre, it was called one thing during the project and construction phase, and then it had its final name. And so being able to update that to, again, make the information clear for everyone else, I think that was really handy as well.
Great. All right, look, we've just got another question coming in. Just a question here. What guidance would you give other facilities teams and business managers that are seeking to get some approval, either at school exec or board level? What would you actually give them as your advice and experience?
Well, I'll let Jess answer this. Jesie was one of the ones who put up the business case. That's her forte. So go for Jess.
So for anyone, I would look at what it is that you're doing now. How much are they actually connected to each other, and how reliable is it? So those are the three things that I looked at. I know Matt had looked for about 5 years before we got onto the facilities management side of it, looking for something that was able to do everything that it does for us, while still trying to work through what our current system and procedures were. So I would say look at that, evaluate the amount of time you're actually spending,
Mhm.
And I think the best thing we did was we had word of mouth come to us about how myBuildings was helping that company. And then we did our own research with the contacts that we had through Education Horizon, and we discussed our needs, how we worked, and it was presented to us in a customized way to say, well, this is how it'll work. Obviously, the word of mouth we got was actually our air conditioner contractor. So they aren't a school, but they were able to advise us how they use it and how it works for them. And then we were able to follow down the path and have sort of the information tailored to what we currently needed. And I think we've expanded so much more than what our current requirements were, because we've seen the capabilities of both programs. And I mean, the DMS is just invaluable as far as I'm concerned.
And also, we're able to put a dollar figure to the time.
Yes.
And that's one thing that the board really appreciated, and that was what got us over the end. It was, at the end of the day, they're trying to save some money as well.
And I think a lot of people, when doing business cases, seem to forget the value of time.
Yes.
Although, like, that was a lot of our financial push, because obviously when we come to them and say we want to make this investment, I really had to put it across how it was an investment. Not only do they have to do this outlay, but this is all the extra stuff we're actually able to do because of this program.
Great. All right. Look, I really want to thank both of you for your time today, also for contributing to the case study. And we've just got a couple of slides to wrap up. And if we can just move to that next slide. Thank you very much. So really, hopefully what you've heard from Jesie and Matt today really is a reflection of what the points are here on the screen. I'd encourage you to, if you have it now, you can put your phone up to the screen and you'll get that case study able to be downloaded, and that'll just really be somewhat a summary of what we've spoken about today. What I feel that Jesie and Matt's experience is around having a system in place that does protect your assets, and in protecting them, you're getting the maximum life cycle out of them. So if there's any questions that you have, please feel free to follow us up through the invite that you received, or we will be sending out a recording of this to anyone who's attended, so you can re-watch it. Possibly we'll re-prompt some questions for you. I have noticed a couple of other questions popped in now, but if I'll get back to those immediately after today. And if today's session has sparked an interest in you where you would like to take a longer and deeper look at AssetWhere, again, use this QR code that's on the screen now, or it'll be in the recording when you receive it, to book a meeting, so that we can, as Jesie and Matt explained very well, how we can understand what you're trying to achieve, what your challenges and risks are, and how our solution can fit that for your school or college. So thank you, Matt. Thank you, Jesie. Really appreciate your time. And for everyone that's joined us today, thank you very much. And we look forward to being in touch very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.